Anthony, thank you so much for doing this, for taking the time to talk with us. Anthony, when Winter Soldier came out, there were millions of jaws dropping all over the world. People were trying to figure out how, coming from the very different universe of Arrested Development and Community and Happy Endings, you came up with such a taut, bare knuckle style filmmaking and brought it to the Marvelverse. Is it a case of in spite of or because of?
That's a great question. It's funny because when we, my brother and I actually started, before we had our television run, comedy television run, we started an independent cinema in the United States and very low budget cinema. So we kind of had that background of indie filmmaking that we brought to television. And we always said, once we became known as comedy directors in television, we always said, if you had ever asked us when we started off as directors that we would ever be known for this, we would have thought you were crazy. It was never. We always loved comedy. We like to laugh, but we're not comedians, full-on comedians ourselves in any way. So I think it's really just we sort of like filmmaking in all its permutations. We like all genres. We've shot big movies, little movies, TV shows, dramas, comedies, commercials. We shoot. We love sort of all the permutations of film and storytelling. So for us, it felt very natural, just because it's like within the spectrum of what we love.
Yes.
I think from other people from the outside, it surprised them because they hadn't necessarily seen it or were aware of it in our work. So we fetishize these kind of movies from a young age. We love action movies, love political thrillers. So it's something that we had a lot of creative capital built up over a long time that we were able to express in Winter Soldier. So.
I read somewhere you used the expression compulsive storytelling.
Uh-huh.
And well, that's a very good way to describe the Winter Soldier, and I'm hoping also the Civil War. We'll get there in a minute. But isn't there something of a comedic timing to it? The way you hold back and then unleash. There's this tempo to the Civil War, which is very singular.
That's a great observation. There are a lot of for us, there's a lot of connections between comedy and action in the sense that both are dependent on choreography. Comedy is all dependent on how do you choreograph a moment for comedic effect. And it has to do with rhythm, blocking of the actors, how the dialogue flows. It's a very complicated, sensitive thing that you have to orchestrate as a director in order for it to work right. And action's the same thing. It's like it requires a really sensitive choreography. You're taking all the elements of a scene and figuring out how do you combine them in a way that's really visceral, that gives you a very visceral, immediate reaction to what's happening. So it is very hardcore choreography, both comedy and drama and action. And it's a weird relationship. A lot of people wouldn't make that connection, but they have a connection.
You might argue that the stakes are never that high with superheroes because you have to keep them alive, right? And then you watch the trailer for the Civil War, and there's the Winter Soldier and Cap tearing at the Iron Man, and suddenly it's so unexpected. Are you really going for broke this time with Civil War in that sense?
We are going for broke. Yeah, I would. Yes. I mean, look, we love what these movies are. We get very excited with them as fans ourselves. So it's like we want to bring something to the table that's going to blow people away. Because there's nothing we love more than we like to go into a movie theater, sit down, and you're at the edge of your seat for the whole movie. That's our favorite movie going experience. So it's like that's what we're trying to bring to people. So we are going for broke. There's a great saying in drama where it's like write yourself into a corner, which means put yourself in a place with the storytelling, and you're like, I have no idea how we move forward from here. We're trapped. We're done. That's the best place to be as a storyteller, because then you have to become very creative about how you move a story forward from that point. So that's what we tried to do, and I think with Civil War, we did go for broke, and I think we were even more confident because Winter Soldier was received well. It gave us a lot of confidence to go even further than we had with that movie along those lines. So,
was it a difficult decision? The departure of tone between the first Avenger and the Winter Soldier, because the first movie is lovely. It's
Yeah.
a 40s matinee, which is very appropriate
Yes.
to the story that's being presented. And then you change it radically. Was it difficult to persuade Marvel Studios and Disney that this is the right way to go? That it had to be modern, contemporary.
Yeah, I mean, look, we really liked the first movie and respect that it was like an homage to the golden age of the character.
Yes.
And that was a great way to introduce the character into
It was a really
cinema.
lovely movie.
But right, that's not the character that we respond to most as fans, that version of the character. We prefer like the Brubaker run of Winter Soldier. That sort of tougher, edgier, more modern sensibility is like what turns us on about the character. Now, luckily, there was a narrative conceit, which is in the first movie, Cap gets frozen in ice and he comes out in the modern day, which he did and we saw him in the modern day in the Avengers, but he never got his full due in terms of how is Captain America, who was born and fought in World War II, going to exist in the modern world? Like, this character uniquely has to. No other character has this experience, unique experience. So we very much decided when we were prepping Winter Soldier, when we were pitching our take on it to Marvel, we wanted Cap to be like, okay, I'm going to turn a corner. I'm going to commit to the modern world. I can't just keep living on the past. I have to think about how I become like the best person, the most complete person I can be here and now in this world. And so we took the character and we just had him study modern fighting techniques. We had him sort of get a little bit more guarded in terms of like how he expressed himself, when he expressed himself, because again, he's a little more vulnerable being a man out of time. There's just a lot of things we could do on a narrative level because he was frozen and came back in a world that he didn't recognize. So we had a big excuse on a narrative level to change the character tonally, and we did that in the movie.
There was a lot of political resonance in The Winter Soldier, and the world's become even more treacherous since then. The last few months have been really hard in those. Do you think a civil war is going to reflect that? And is that a concern you have, that you have to reflect the time, the political climate, let's say, of the world that movie is being made in?
Yeah, because like The Winter Soldier, Civil War is still nominally set in the world of a political thriller. It is. It's at its nature, and we believe it's an important part of the identity of the character of Captain America, since he was basically conceived as a political tool. So we believe you have to honor that and respect it. And look, we are obsessed with what's happening in the world today on a political level. It's something that we pay attention to on a daily basis. And all the great political thrillers always find a way to take those anxieties that we're all experiencing collectively as a world culture and figure out how to put them into a narrative where you're sort of playing with those ideas and those experiences in a fictional way. That I think it's cathartic to do that, for us as a culture, to have that sort of outlet to deal with these things. So yes, we are very much doing that in Civil War, and it is even more complex than what was going on in Winter Soldier. I mean, the thing about Winter Soldier was Cap was at odds with the government, but as he learned through the course of the movie, it was a corrupt government. In this movie, he's not dealing with a corrupt government anymore. He's dealing with a legitimate government. And then that's when things really get complicated, when everybody has a valid point of view that they're coming from. So there is a little bit more maturity, I think, to the political conflict in Civil War. And it leads to, I think, more exciting drama between the characters.
When the first generation of superheroes, first modern generation, started to come about, with Spider-Man, etc. Did you then imagine that superhero movies would become such a forum for debating the world we live in?
No, that's we never imagined. But for us, it's like that's what we've always been drawn to, and like whatever art we respond to. We like things that have layers. We like things that have moral complexity to them, and while we like to have fun and we like to be silly and we like all those other things, we like very well-rounded storytelling. So the fact that they moved in this direction was really exciting to us, and that you're able to express this kind of narrative in these films is just amazing. And it's great because the movies are popular, and there's a lot of them now, and you have to keep surprising audiences with what they can be. So it's fun as a storyteller to be able to keep pushing in the new directions to surprise people with what can be done in a superhero movie.
Was it an adjustment personally for you and Joe to have to live with this level of expectation and fame and demand that comes with doing such huge movies?
That's a good question. Listen, for us, I think it's interesting. I think we kind of, at the end of the day, my brother and I, we always approach everything the same, you know. We love our work, we love what we do, and it doesn't matter what we're making. We sort of have the same exact process that we go through in terms of like finding a way to like express it on a visual, dramatic level and surprise ourselves and sort of do things that people haven't seen before. I mean, it's basically the same process we've gone through our entire careers. So I think on one level, no. And Marvel is such a great company that they make the parts of the process that we weren't familiar with, they made things very easy for us because they're real amazing pros at what they do. So if we did have any blind spots in terms of how you make a movie like this, we were very well supported at that company. So that was great. Yeah.
And did the two of you ever fight?
You know, we fight a lot less than we used to. Like when we were kids, you know, it's like when you're kids, you're sharing a bedroom and you're only a year apart. You need your own space. So, but as we've gotten older, the fighting is rare.
That's really nice.
But still healthy, I think, at times.
Anthony, it was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.